Good morning. Today's subject, after much contemplation and meditation, is not going to be perhaps one of the easier ones. The title that I've selected is There Will Be No Savior. Is that true? I have heard this said again and again by various commentators in the recent past up to the present. A part of me feels abandoned when I hear this. The part of me that feels inadequate, if not helpless, in the face of what I know to be true about the world we experience as humans on Earth. In addition, I feel overwhelmed when I look at the apparent slow pace of the awakening, with the vast majority not only still asleep, but with many resisting and denying the truth of our situation. To me, there is little doubt that humanity has been brainwashed, hypnotized by the matrix of lies. I have often felt that without divine intervention, human life on Earth is doomed. Today, I want to briefly explore the idea that there will be no Savior, asking myself, is this true? I guess I was born an iconoclast and somewhat of a rebel. I've always asked the hard questions of people that seemed to have it all together, but often my questions would annoy them. And I'm talking about when I was much younger. My questions would annoy them, and sometimes they'd get pretty upset at me. That still happens today, but it happens differently than it did then. In any case, I have always been on this bandwagon, if you will, of wanting to save the world, wanting to bring the kingdom of heaven to earth so that there could be a world that works with everybody. And that was true as a fundamentalist Christian when I had no idea how corrupt the world was. I had no idea how the reality was playing out on planet Earth. I was basically ignorant, basically asleep, basically hypnotized like everybody else. And I thought my religion was the one that was capable of saving people, and other religions were doomed, and people were going to hell, because that's how I was taught. Obviously, I don't believe that today, and some people think that that's a weakness, but I think it's a strength, and you can make up your own mind. But I look at the world that we're in, and when I realized how corrupt the government was, and it was 9/11 that woke me up to some degree, but then it was the lawsuit that woke me up even further, and I realized that the system is lawless. They have the facade of being lawful, but that's not the reality of it. I've seen remedy after remedy that are available within the law, ignored by those whose job it is to serve the public by upholding the law and upholding truth. But that's not what happens in the world that we live in. Truth is attacked and ignored and ridiculed and anything but honored as it should be when we know, or we've been told, which is the truth, that the truth shall set us free. But the truth is not honored by those that control the world. That's the reality of the world that I have witnessed firsthand. It's not an opinion. It's a fact of my experience. I have seen it in the courts, and I have given up. And I said, God, it's in your hands. I don't know how to play this game, because all the studying and all the things that I've looked at are meaningless to those who choose to ignore them. Meaningless. And I get letters from people, and I'm going to share at least part of 2 emails that I received yesterday, just to give you an idea of some of the things that come across my path and some of the things that people say to me. The first one is from a lady in my local community, and who I will not name. She said, when I did my research, I found that most people were afraid of the subjects they didn't want to hear about, and many of the rest just thought I was crazy. Did I care? No. I did not do this work to convince anyone. I did what I felt I was led to do for those that can relate to it. It is not necessary for my ego that anyone care. My job is to do what I feel led to do, period. She said, personally, I cannot relate to hyper-focusing on the government as a negative entity, though due to insistence of persons like yourself, I see more of the corruption than I did. But I don't get anything out of those types of talks. It doesn't better me. It doesn't motivate me. To me, it just feels like a lot of anger, and I leave such discussions feeling annoyed and depressed, which for me is not helpful. I'd rather focus on what can I do to help, and then try to find a way to do that. That simply works better for me. Is that a condemnation of you? No, Ron, it is not. I have always seen you as someone who is doing what you think is right, and with passion, and I do believe that you have done a lot of good, though maybe not in the ways that you wish to be recognized for. No one appreciates every single aspect of another. We all get to pick and choose what appeals to us. It's not a personal thing about the other, but rather a personal thing about ourselves. Okay. That was in response to my comment that I feel that not enough people in the local community give me the support that I need. Although I am getting support from people, it's just not always in the way that I would like. As she said, the government stuff to her is not important. And to me, it's the most important thing that we realize about the awakening. We need to awaken to the world that we're in before we can create the world we want. Because if we don't awaken to the world that we're in and acknowledge it, then we can't do anything about it because there's nothing to do. There is no action plan that can be brought into effect if we think that the world is just going along okay and everything's fine. Anyway, I got this other letter this morning. That one that I just read, I read yesterday, but this one I didn't read until this morning after coming from the meditation room. I want to start out by thanking you for your videos. They have certainly helped me. I have noticed recently that I have 2 sides of myself that are constantly compensating each other and warring with each other, figuratively speaking, one is a fat kid with no talents. He hates himself and isolates himself and sees no discernible talents in himself, and he medicates himself by drowning himself in things to numb the mind or distract, like TV or computer. He is socially awkward and can't open up. He can't open up to women because he is afraid of being rejected. In a nutshell, he feels unworthy. A lot of things. The second side is an angry punk rocker who really, really enjoys smoking pot. He feels he needs to express himself, and he is angry at the government and at society and people for hurting him. He is basically bullied and rejected and is angry about it. He deals with his anger by sedating himself with pot and alcohol. He is irrational. Except for the fat part, these are the 2 sides of myself that take turns expressing themselves. I find it hard to learn new things or even to try them, and when I do, I suck at them. I have a loving family, but I never felt I was in control in social situations, like I have to be led by somebody. I medicate myself with pot and alcohol and sedate myself with TV. I want so bad to stop these vicious cycles. I would really love your advice. Lately, I've allowed my friends to drop out of my life because of this. Because of this, I'm lonely. I'm really feeling bogged down by this. Thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate any help you can give. If there would ever be anything I could do to return the favor, I would be happy to do so. People reaching out for help and people expressing frustration because they feel overwhelmed by looking at the situation in which we actually find ourselves in 2013 in the world that we live in. What to do? Will there be a savior? I've heard Max Egan time and again say there will be nobody, no savior. There's nobody coming to rescue us. Well, there is. There is people. There are people coming to rescue us. There are angelic forces that are at work very, very much. There are extraterrestrials that are very involved in at least curtailing the cabal in its nefarious plans to dominate the entire world. There are extraterrestrials that are stopping weapons and minimizing earth changes so that we don't have all the cataclysms and the massive loss of life that some have predicted for the time in which we live. There is divine intervention going on all the time, but it's not going on for me and for others in the way that we would like it to, because the divine wants us to get it, or at least it wants enough of us to get it to be the critical mass or the 100th monkey necessary to shift the entire world. It would never shift if there was nobody in the forefront taking responsibility for the whole thing, doing the Ho'oponopono and saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. You know, going through the process of taking on the sins of the world, as it were. That is what saviors do. And there are many saviors. Christ is not coming as a lone single individual, the Maitreya, or a single person who's going to all of a sudden arrest all of the bad people and impose a new system on the world. That's not how the Savior is coming. And it's true that that kind of a Redeemer is probably not going to appear anytime at all in our future and has not appeared as such in our past. We've idealized Jesus and others as types of messiahs, as types of saviors, but really they did not change the world visibly when they were here, and we're not changing the world visibly yet now, but here's what's happening. The Savior is coming, and it's me, and it's you, and it's those of us that are willing to look at our lives honestly, tell ourselves the truth. We're not afraid to embrace the shadow and the dark aspects of human life. We're not afraid, and we don't turn our heads away from what we don't like and what makes us feel uncomfortable, even when we don't know what we can do to help, even when we don't have an action plan that we could write down or we could vocalize to someone else and say, this is what I'm going to do. We're honest. That is the first step of salvation, is being honest with yourself. And the writer of this letter that I read second, that person is being honest with themselves. They're recognizing the situation that they're in and they're telling themselves the truth. That is huge. That is a huge step, because most of the world still doesn't get it. They still are unwilling. Most people are still unwilling to even acknowledge the truth of the situation in which they find themselves. They buy into the thing. Well, that's a conspiracy theory. Well, there's been conspiracies going on Earth forever. The people in control have always conspired against the people that they want to control. That's the way it's always been. Wake up. Wake up. But you have to first admit that you have a problem. And then divine intervention does help. There is grace being poured out. And there are people that are wanting to hear. This young man uh, is going, he's ready to hear. His ears are open. His heart is open. His mind is open. He said, look, my life is a mess. My life is a mess. And I need some help. And the teacher will come because he's open, ready to listen. I'm not his teacher. I'm not his guru. I'm not anybody's guru, but I can point you to where the answer is. The first answer is in you. You are the savior you've been waiting for in your life, and it begins, as I said, by taking responsibility. Holy mackerel, it's over 15 minutes already. Over 15 minutes. We take responsibility and we ask for help, and help is being given. We are being moved into a higher level of awareness than we've ever been before. Truth is available through the internet as it's never been before. The truth about our world. We need to pay attention. We need to look. We need to be willing. And yes, the Savior is coming in many, many, many forms, many beings, many people. The Savior is actually not coming. The Savior is here right now, and it's growing. That Savior mentality, that Savior awareness is growing in humanity. It is the hero with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of different faces. It is the one we've been looking for. We are that one, but it is multiple. It is multiple. It is many people that are awakening to this. Open your eyes, open your heart, open your mind, and you will see it. We are being rescued, but it's being done from within our own consciousness. You need to get that. You need to see it. We all do. And the more of us that do, the faster and the more accelerated the change will be. That will shift the world from a world of lies to a world of truth. And the truth will set all of us free. Thank you for listening. Namaste.